trades are one thing that all of the big four American sports leagues have in common. They happen less frequently in some leagues compared to others, and all four value players, draft picks, and money differently due to league structure as it pertains to prospects, and whether or not the league is salary capped. Baseball might be the toughest to decipher of all of them when it comes to value, though. Major League Baseball is the only one of the major American sports leagues that doesn't operate under a salary cap, meaning there is no true limit on the amount of money a team can spend on their payroll. There is a luxury tax that is meant as a deterrent so big market teams don't just buy all the best players and make the league lopsided, but that isn't stopping most of them. When Juan Soto turned down the Nationals' 15-year, $440 million contract extension last week, the non-baseball fan public couldn't believe he would turn down so much money, but the fact is, Juan Soto is worth more. The Nationals' offer carried an annual average value of $29.3 million a year, which would make Juan Soto the 16th highest paid player in baseball in 2023. He would have placed behind Alex Bregman, Anthony Rendon, Corey Seager, and Giancarlo Stanton, and the fact is, Soto is better than all those players. In fact, he's better than most players in baseball. The Nationals' offer of 15 years does make the AAV number a bit more appealing, offering him the guarantee of a massive amount of money for the rest of his career. But if he thinks he can and should get more money than that, he's probably not wrong. It's not every day that a 23-year-old player is this good, and it's even rarer that a 23-year-old player has a chance to cash in like this. So how much is Juan Soto truly worth on the field? Let's try and figure it out. Juan Soto's 160 OPS plus through his age 23 season ranks 12th in the modern era. His 427 OBP ties him for 4th in that span, behind only 2 Hall of Famers and a third player that should be in Cooperstown. All signs of Soto's long-term projections see him continuing to be one of the best hitters in the game, thanks to his next-level eye and incredible bat-to-ball skills. He's going to end up being a tremendous stat accumulator, too. He sits at 118 career home runs in 2,396 plate appearances, homering roughly once every 20 trips to the dish. His current pace, even if it slows down near the end of his career, which it almost certainly will, basically guarantees him somewhere over 500 career home runs. Couple that with the fact that he's never finished a season with an OBP below 400, and you've got the makings of an all-time great player at the plate. The type of player whose corner outfield defense truly doesn't matter. So when a 23-year-old player who's basically a lock to win multiple MVPs in the future hits the trading block, what does the return look like in the past? That's the thing, we don't know. It hasn't really happened. The closest comparison we have might be Miguel Cabrera, who was already a 4-time All-Star and perennial MVP candidate when the Marlins traded him to Detroit before his age 25 season. In return for Cabrera, the Marlins got 5 players. The centerpieces were Cameron Maybin and Andrew Miller, MLB's number 6 and number 19 prospects respectively. Eulogio de la Cruz, Burke Badenhop, Mike Rabello, and Dallas Traherne also went to Florida in the deal, while Detroit took on the talented but struggling Dontrelle Willis as well. 15 years later, how does that trade look in hindsight? Well, Miguel Cabrera has been worth 49.9 Fangraphs for the Tigers in his first ballot Hall of Fame career. He's the only player to win the Triple Crown since the 40s. He won back-to-back MVPs, and he was the best player on a team that made it to the World Series. He has 500 home runs and 3,000 hits, and is generally regarded as one of the 2 best hitters, if not the best hitter of his era. On Florida's end, Cameron Maybin was traded to San Diego in 2010 for Edward Mujica and Ryan Webb. Andrew Miller was dealt to Boston for Dustin Richardson the same year, and none of the rest of the pack of prospects could get their contributions to the Marlins above a grand total of 4.6 F4. Does that one lopsided, franchise-altering trade mean that all prospect packages are created equal, or that all potential superstar careers pan out the same way? Of course not, but it's the closest to the Soto situation we've seen, and not just in the comparable talents and ages of Cabrera and Soto. I mentioned that Cabrera wasn't the only player the Tigers received from Florida. They included Dontrelle Willis in the deal as well. The D-Train was a former Rookie of the Year and 2-time All-Star, but at the time of the trade to Detroit, he was coming off a rough 2007 season. Still, knowing he was due for a payday, the Marlins' notoriously cheap management basically used him as a throw-in, simply to avoid paying their young pitcher more than they felt comfortable. He promptly signed an extension in Detroit worth $29 million over 3 seasons. I mention that to bring up one of the most interesting aspects of the looming Soto trade, the idea of the Nationals dumping Patrick Corbin's terrible contract on another team. Before the 2019 season, Patrick Corbin signed a 6-year, $140 million contract with the Nats. He's owed roughly $25 million over each of the next 2 seasons. And being that he's one of the worst qualified pitchers in baseball this year, the Nats are looking to stop paying him as soon as they possibly can. While the addition of Corbin and his buckets of money alongside Soto and the truckloads of money his extension will cost his new team may cheapen the Nats' potential return, They will basically have unlimited money to spend as they enter a true rebuild for really the first time in franchise history since becoming the Nationals. So, is that it? Would the Soto deal look identical to the Cabrera deal? A few highly touted prospects, some MLB-ready players, and a couple promising guys as filler, plus the Nats get off Corbin's money? Not exactly. For one, Soto is probably even further along at the plate at 23 than even Miguel Cabrera was at 25. Secondly, in the current landscape where player value is more accurately calculated than ever before, it's not likely that the Nationals would trade Soto for anything less than a king's ransom, especially with his market consisting of basically every contending team in baseball. The Cardinals, Yankees, Mets, Dodgers, Padres, Giants, White Sox, Mariners, and Blue Jays are all teams that have been linked to Soto through reports, and all of them are said to be offering packages that include several of their top prospects as well as a few young, proven MLB players. Let's examine some trade packages that have been proposed to get Juan Soto to the San Diego Padres, since AJ Preller is the exact type of maniac GM that would love to make a deal like this. MLB.com, The Athletic, SB Nation, and the Associated Press all had slightly different variations on what the Padres would need to give up, but they all had two common denominators: CJ Abrams and Mackenzie Gore. Abrams was the number 6 prospect in baseball in 2021 according to MLB Pipeline, before graduating off the list this season. He's barely 21 and has been coming on strong as of late with the Padres after a rough start to the season. Mackenzie Gore was ranked 55 on the same list. A 23-year-old left-handed pitcher who has found reasonable success at the MLB level this year. Those would be the centerpieces, building blocks that would either hit it off at the MLB level with ample playing time and opportunity in Washington, or maintain trade value long enough to get the Nats a few more pieces to work with. The rest of the trade is where those outlets differ. MLB.com includes 3 more prospects in Adrian Morejon, Robert Hassell, and Joshua Mears. The Athletic proposes one of Hassell or James Wood, as well as either Victor Lizarraga or Kevin Kopps. I find the proposal from SB Nation and the AP to be the most interesting though. Both of them include Jake Cronenworth alongside Hassell, Abrams, and Gore. Cronenworth is a 27-year-old, 2-time All-Star utility infielder, who seemingly wouldn't fit the timeline of the full-blown rebuild the Nationals appear to be on a collision course with. Is immediate MLB help something the Nats would be looking for in a deal? Do they value getting something tangible to keep their fan base engaged and supportive through the rebuild? Keep in mind, it's already likely that the Nats move Josh Bell whether Soto is traded at the deadline or not. They're tearing it all down, so the idea of acquiring a very solid 27-year-old might seem foreign to some. But if Cronenworth is truly an option for the Nationals, one has to wonder what kind of offers those other teams could be making. Would the White Sox offer Eloy Jimenez to make up for their lack of high-end prospects they could give up? Would the Yankees be willing to sell the entire farm for a chance to put together the most potent lineup baseball has seen in decades? Do the Mariners think they're close enough to lose some of their promising young talent to add a bona fide superstar? In all cases, I would hope the answer is yes. Juan Soto's trade value is basically unquantifiable. Nobody truly knows what Washington's asking price is, what the potential suitors are offering, and most importantly, nobody knows how much a 23-year-old proven prodigy is worth on the trade market, because it simply never happened before. You could wake me up in a week and tell me Soto didn't get traded, he got traded for Logan Gilbert, Noelvi Marte, George Kirby, and Jared Kelenic, or that he got traded for Aaron Judge and Anthony Volpe, and I would somehow believe you no matter what. It's such an unknown that even trying to estimate his value over the course of the next 15 years is futile. Soto is continuously improving at such a rapid rate, and he's not even close to the typical prime years of an MLB player yet. Zips projects Soto to be worth nearly 8 FWAR over each of the next 2 seasons, which would put him right level with Alex Rodriguez's 1998 season. And to be honest, I think Soto has a decent chance to be even better than that, especially if he's playing in a better lineup than Washington's. If we slide over to Baseball Reference, it'll tell us that Soto has accumulated the 28th most Baseball Reference WAR of any player aged 23 or younger, despite losing a ton of games to COVID in 2020, and his age 23 season still not complete. There is an incredibly real chance Juan Soto finishes his career as one of the 10 most productive hitters in the history of the sport. And isn't that worth more than the hopes and dreams baseball fans put into their prized prospects? To each their own, but I don't think many teams that recently traded for MVP level players truly regret their prospect investment. I thought maybe along the way of making this video, I'd reach the perfect equation and determine just how much Juan Soto is worth in a trade. But that didn't happen. If anything, I'm more lost than I was before just because of how many directions the Soto sweepstakes could go. And honestly, it wouldn't shock me to see him held onto by Washington until the season ends. But one way or another, the pursuit of Juan Soto should teach us all a valuable lesson in assessing value and just how creative certain teams are willing to get to acquire possibly the most valuable baseball player to hit the trade market in the modern era.